Get all of your Alien and Predator figures at Big Bad Toy Store at the link in the description down below. Pokemon, Kaiju, Dragon Ball, and more. It's Steven's Toy Reviews. Hello there, collectors. Happy Figure Friday to you. And today for Alien Day, Steven is bringing you a special review of the Figma Alien Takayuki Takeya version. Yep, that's right. The famous monster master, the amazing sculptor Takeya, took a shot at the original Alien Big Chap. And it's released as a Figma. With the ever-increasing price of Figmas these days, this one clocks in at about $90 before shipping. Yeah. With a name like Takeya on it, that means it has to be amazing, right? Well, let's take a look to see whether or not it's worth adding into your collection. Without a doubt, Takeya did an amazing job with designing this and making sure all of the details looked great. And that does translate over relatively well to the final product. Admittedly, it is a bit of a step back from the prototype, with some of the paint applications being a bit more streamlined, but still at the end of the day, the product that we get in hand is actually not too bad. Some folks have criticized the silver teeth and the claws, but you know what? In actual execution, I don't think they look that bad. There is also a subtle brown, both dry brush and wash to the figure, casted in what looks to be just black plastic, or at least a rubbery type of plastic, and it does bring out the haunting details of the original Xenomorph design. But what's even cooler than that is they actually managed to capture the skull and dome of Big Chap here relatively well. Unfortunately, one issue that seems to plague all Alien releases with a translucent dome is that there's going to be a seam line or a flash mark on it that seems to ruin the illusion for most folks. That is indeed present here, but to be honest with you, it isn't so bad here that I think it's worth throwing the figure out. And yes, the sculpted skull details underneath that dome are quite freaky. The overall biomechanical nature of the alien is translated well here for the sculpt, and it is even enhanced more by the demonic style that Takeya brings to the table for every single one of his sculpts, whether it's going to be the giant warrior or even Shin Godzilla. And yes, the Thunder God Zenogre armor, he did that one as well, if memory does serve correctly. I'm not going to bother to fact check myself on that one. Anyway, the moral of the story here is, yes, by nature, there is a sort of a degradation from the prototype to the final product in terms of application for paint and sometimes sculpted detail. But that being said, they still managed to keep a ton of that detail, and the final product looks good. Alrighty, time to talk about the articulation here for this big guy. Well, it's not that big, but for the articulation, some of it is really cool. Other parts, there's no toe hinge. Yeah. All right, so what do we have here? Well, the mouth opens and closes on a hinge. So this way we can clearly see the jaw opens. And then we do have the inner mouth, which just kind of falls out. So it's not necessarily like on a sliding rail or anything where you can adjust it. It's kind of either in slightly or all the way out, because it will just fall out. So you got to make sure that you're careful there. Kind of open the jaw 3/4 of the way, and that will sort of prevent the inner mouth from falling out. Once you open it up all the way, though, it's just going to fall right out like that. Now, for the head where it attaches into the neck, it looks like we just have a straightforward ball joint there, so this way we can move the alien's head around in a few different directions, but unfortunately we do have this back spike here, which is going to block the articulation, so you do have to be a little creative there. Oh, wait a minute. No, not always. This is actually on a ball joint, so it kind of wiggles around a little bit, and it is a pain to pop out. I had to heat this sucker up so much, and then I was able to get it to finally dislodge. So once you do that, we can get a little better range of movement there for the head. We can kind of get Big Chap to go ahead and look straight ahead instead of always at a downward angle. So that's good. So for the shoulders here, as we move down, they are plugged into the body on a ball joint, as you can clearly see, and that is a true blue ball joint. So you can spin the arms around as much as you would like. And then we do have a hinge, so this way we can get the alien in a somewhat T-pose, kind of, sort of, not really. Got to make those joints work. All right, so it's like a crooked T pose. Anyway, yes, we do have a hinge there, but because of the sculpt, it does run into the body a little bit, so do keep that in mind, that it's not going to be totally fluid movement. From there, we do actually have a bicep swivel, where the shoulder joint plugs into the arm, so that's pretty nice. That we get a little bit more range of movement there. And then we do have the typical Figma style joint at the elbow. So this way we get about that much range of movement out of that single hinge. But since there are two pegs, one in the upper arm, one in the lower arm there, we do get 2 points of swivel movement as well. For the wrists, we do have the standard Figma 2.0 style hinge joint there and a swivel as well. So this way we can spin the wrist around and the hands can be posed in a whole bunch of different directions, which is always cool. Now, for the ab crunch, we do have a ball joint, which we get a little bit of movement out of. Twist and turning from side to side, unfortunately, isn't going to be the strong point here. But yeah, we get a little bit of crunchy or rockin' movement. Pretty cool. No true blue waist joint, but we do have ball jointed hips, as usual for some Figmas these days. And we do have softer plastic here, so that way some of the parts can actually bend. So with that ball joint, this is about as far out as the Figma Alien's legs will go for a split. As you can clearly see, the upper portion here for the thigh does bend, but it also does block the articulation and naturally wants the leg to go back to a neutral position. So for kicking out forward about that far, leg going back about that far, you can see the plastic bending there. We do have swivels at the thigh, which is pretty good. We get a little bit more range of movement there. We do have the Figma joint in the knee, so this way we get one single hinge, but it bends about that far, which is good. And also, we do get a little bit of a swivel movement there. For the ankles, we do have a similar joint that we would have in the wrist. So we get a little bit of ankle rocker movement, and we can move the ankles forward and back on a hinge. So this way the foot can be posed in a couple of different ways. And no toe hinge. Yeah, that's a bit of a bummer. Now, the tail. It's kind of upsetting. Why is that? Well, it's fixed sculpt. So this way it's meant to sort of curl like so underneath the Figma Alien. At least that's how the natural sculpt would be. Let me go ahead and reassemble this frustrating thing. But what you can do is it has a Figma joint at the base of the booty there, and it does have a swivel and a hinge. So this way you can move the tail. But then you see the sculpt gets reversed and it looks kind of weird. But from there, aside from that swivel joint, we do have another swivel about right here in the tail. We do have another swivel up here closer to that tip that loves to fall out. And then that actual hook in and of itself is on a swivel as well, so we can spin it around. So this way we can get a few different poses out of the alien's tail, but because of that sculpt being fixed, it can look weird in some spots like here, where these little spikes or spines, whatever you would prefer to call them, stop and then start over here on this side. So yeah, for those of you who need a super duper accurate sculpt, yeah, the tail is not going to be too great. Plus, it does like to pop apart as you're moving it around, or even just at the slightest unfortunate bump, it may come undone. So overall, for the articulation for the alien, see what I mean? Yes, it uses soft plastic in basically all of the figure, so this will lead to loosening of joints in the long run, but for right now the articulation is serviceable, so this way you can get the alien into some fun poses. Nothing over the top, but hey, it works. Accessories time, and an alien for $90. That must mean it's going to come with a whole lot, right? We get a postcard, which is not shown here. I'll show you at the end of this segment. We get an extra set of hands for the alien. We get a Figma support stand, and then we get a face hugger whose intended gimmick does not truly work as well as it should, with an additional tail. For $90. All right, so those extra hands that we get for the alien, what do they do? What do they look like? Well, to be honest with you folks, they don't look a whole lot different. Why? These are intended to be more so splayed out hands to make it look like the alien is in battle. I used one of each set of hands for this shot here. Can you tell which hand is which? If you can, great, they did their job. If you can't, you're not alone. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at that face hugger there, and, well, the whole gimmick here is that it comes with a spiraled tail, so this way you can remove the head of another one of your human figures, at least, and put that around the neck, pop the head back in, and then reattach the facehugger to make it look like it has taken down a victim. Well, I tried it with the SH Figuarts Goku Saiyan Raised on Earth, the Figma Link, the Figuarts Ash Ketchum. I tried it with a couple of other Figmas, a couple other Figuarts that I have, and either I just don't have the right figures that this was intended for, or the gimmick just simply doesn't work. At least you can have it wrapped around the Figma Predator's wrist like it is getting ready to be attacked and destroyed. Now that extra tail that it comes with, it doesn't have a bendy wire. It's just straight out. So this way, if you want the facehugger crawling around on the ground, you can do that. Then, to top it all off, because we all know how Figma support stands work, here's a look at that postcard, which includes the concept art for the making of this alien Figma. And I do have to say, that's pretty haunting. Yeah. So, accessories for this thing. They're just not that great, to be honest with you. It's just not good. For $90, they could have at least included a chest burster, which I thought they originally did, and for whatever reason, some folks in my unboxing video felt the need to correct me, even though I knew that the Mafex was coming with it. But anyway, yeah, there's no chest burster with this one, which seems kind of like an essential and would have been a much more fun gimmick to pull off. And there's no egg either. Yeah, there's another figure that's coming out that's another rendition of Big Chap that's about $90. You can get all that as well. No reason why the Figma couldn't have had it. So if you are looking to get some extra accessories or effect parts, you know that I have videos for that out there. Now we're going to go ahead and round out this review with a size comparison alongside the Figma Predator, so this way you are able to see how this delinquent duo works together scale-wise with some other figures you have in your collection. And as you can clearly see, though they scale well with the Monster Arts release for the AVP Alien Warrior, no, Big Chap isn't hiding somewhere. I wonder why. They are dwarfed by NECA's releases. I do have to say, that's not very good. So, buy now, skip, or wait for a deal. Well, I hate to be a downer on Alien Day, but this is $90, and it is simply not worth MSRP. I don't quite know what the folks at Max Factory and Good Smile Company were thinking when they said this is a $90 release, because it isn't. Yes, I know Takeya is quite a large name attached to this product, and I can imagine that licensing rights were pretty high up there, but to be honest with you, this is not that much better than what Bandai released for their Monster Arts line several years ago. I'm talking about the Alien Warrior, okay? We know Big Chap was absolutely terrible. We know that, okay? Okay, yeah. So while this figure is in fact good, it has a lot of nice things going for it, especially with the clout behind the name. This is only going to appeal to diehards of either Takeya or Alien. Everyone else in between, the casual collectors, you don't need to get this. Which is really sad to say, because I like it. It's good. It's just not $90 good. Nowhere near that price point. Don't even think about it then. Wait till it comes down, and then make your purchase. Well, collectors, that brings us to the end of the video today, and I just wanted to take a second to thank you so much for watching. Now, you've heard a lot from me. I'd like to hear a little bit from you. Drop in the comments down below whether or not you liked it, you hated it, or maybe you were somewhere in between. I also want to take an extra second here for a nice, humongous thank you to all the patrons for SDR over the last month who have really helped the channel grow into what it can be today. So to all of you, 2 big thumbs up. Thank you very much. And now the end card should be popping up, which will give you a few clickable links, like maybe to subscribe or head on over to my Patreon, or some short URLs like to my social media or to my Teespring store. There's also a video I hand selected for you, so if you want to watch another STR video, I hand selected some good content for you to watch, so definitely check out that video. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll catch ya in the next video.